Welcome to Raving Ryan. I'm your host, Ryan Anastasio. Today I have a very special guest, Congressman from Connecticut's 1st District, John B. Larson. Congressman, how are you?
I'm terrific, Ryan. How are you?
Can you tell us a little bit about your path to Congress and some of the challenges you faced on your path to becoming a congressman?
It's a long and winding road, Ryan, let me tell you. Yeah. But no, I started out on the Board of Education in East Hartford. Actually, before that, if you really want to go way back, I was president of my sophomore class in high school and president of my senior class in high school. And then when I got out of college, I was a teacher. And then having taught for a while, I took a leave of absence, and during that leave decided I would run for the Board of Education, did so, and then ran for the East Hartford Town Council, then the Connecticut State Senate, and then what was a heartbreaking loss for the citizens of the state of Connecticut. I ran for governor in 1994 and lost in a Democratic primary. And then in 1998, I had an opportunity to, Barbara Kennelly, the then sitting United States Congressman from the 1st District, decided to run for governor. And I ran for the United States Congress and won in a 4-way primary for the seat.
Yeah, and like you just said, you were a teacher in your early years, and you taught at East Hartford High School. Can you tell me how being a teacher has helped you represent your constituents better as a congressman?
Well, I was a history teacher. And so I've always had a great love of history. But essentially, I think that any legislative job, any elective job, is so much of it is about educating the public. So I think those skills that you acquire as a teacher in trying to communicate to people are very helpful in trying to inform the public. But also you learn as a teacher, it's not just enough to inform, but to make people more knowledgeable.
Yeah, and prior to being a congressman, you served in the Connecticut State Senate and eventually became president pro tempore of the state Senate. What was the change like from the Senate to the U.S. Congress, and how do you feel that the state Senate prepared you well to be a congressman?
Well, yes, the state Senate was a great learning experience, and having been the Senate president, of course, the difference primarily is that in the Connecticut State Senate there are 36 seats. Whereas there's 435 members of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And as the leader of the Senate, you have a great deal of authority in that I have got to appoint all the chairmen of the various committees and set the agenda for the state of Connecticut. As one of 435 people and being in the minority, it's a lot different pace. But nonetheless, exciting and challenging in the roles that you take on.
I want to move into some questions about some national issues that are going on. Yesterday it was announced that Anthony Scaramucci would be ousted as the communications director. The White House is already on its 2nd chief of staff, 2nd press secretary, and now 3rd communications director. What do you make of the recent staff changes in the White House, and were you surprised by them?
Well, let me say that I think it was a necessary. And I have a lot of respect for General Kelly and the decision that he made. And I think that Anthony Scaramucci was a disgrace to the country. And I think that was a wise decision on the part of John Kelly to have him removed. The Trump White House has been in pretty much disarray since the outset, and they've had change after change, and in large part, I think, due to the president's own temperament and style of doing business. He's not, by nature and fairness to him, he's not he doesn't have a lot of government experience. He prides himself having business experience, and so and being the head of a show famously called The Apprentice, where he's fired a lot of people. And it seems like that's what he's done best, is fire people so far who work for him.
Yeah, were you in favor of removing Reince Priebus as the chief of staff? And do you like having John Kelly in there now?
It's his decision. He's the president of the United States. The Congress doesn't have any say over that, and that's something that only the president can do. He obviously didn't think that Mr. Priebus was doing the job, and so as is his prerogative, he fired him.
Yeah. And are you hopeful that, do you think John Kelly would do a good job as chief of
I
staff?
hope that John Kelly brings the discipline that is required of the chief of staff in the White House, and even more so, I hope that the president follows some of that discipline.
I want to ask you for questions about health care. The health care debate is still going on, and the Senate has still not passed legislation. The House passed its own legislation with no Democratic support a few months ago. What do you as your solution to the health care problem? Because I think most people agree that Obamacare does need to be fixed at least.
Well, let's say first and foremost that Obamacare was a great success and is now the 22 million people who are threatened by losing that coverage, and the American people now resoundingly agree that it was a success. Why? It was a success because it did away with pre-existing conditions, so you had to be covered regardless of your health. It made sure that there were no more lifetime caps, which means you wouldn't lose your home or all your personal finances or savings because of a health injury. It made sure that you were able, especially as you were older, to get checkups from your doctor in a preventative nature, and made sure that children were able to stay on their policies to 26. But to your point, it also was not without its flaws. And so those things needed to be corrected. So we've introduced a bill to correct this, because I don't think it's enough just to say you oppose what Trump is doing or you don't like the Republican bill. As bad as it's been deemed, I think in the most recent poll, only 12% of the American people looked at their solution favorably. So what I think needs to be done is that we should strengthen the existing Affordable Care Act. How would I do that? In several ways. Number one, first what we would do is make sure that we provide for greater catastrophic care. That means when you have an injury or a health issue that becomes catastrophic, there's a safety net there that takes care of it, and that takes some of the ripple effect out of insuring against loss. The other thing is to increase the risk pools, increase the risk corridors that exist, make more generous the offerings, especially in states like Connecticut and California, that are wealthier states than, say, Mississippi or Alabama, that there's more generous subsidies so that people have an opportunity to purchase health care that's affordable. I would also argue that we should have direct volume discounts for Medicare by negotiating directly with the pharmaceutical companies. That all Medicare recipients on behalf of CMS and behalf of Medicare should negotiate directly with pharmaceutical companies, lowering the cost. But the most unique thing that we would do is allow people that are 50 years of age to buy into the Medicare system.
Yeah, and are you proposing legislation to do that?
We have proposed legislation to do that.
And where are we in that step for that legislation?
Well, we introduced the legislation before we adjourned, and we have a number of co-sponsors. We'll be seeking original co-sponsors of the bill, meaning that they sign on to the bill originally. And then the bill will have to go through its process in the House of Representatives.
President Trump has said that he would like to finish up health care so that he can move on to tax reform. You serve on the House Ways and Means Committee, which is the chief tax writing committee.
That's right.
Can you tell me what is going on in the committee and if tax reform is going to be passed soon?
Well, we would hope that tax reform would be passed, and we'd hope it would be passed in regular order, meaning they should have hearings and testimony from experts all across the country so that you get to decide what's in the best interest of the nation. So far, they haven't done that. Their pet project was something called a bat tax. But now the administration is in disagreement with the Speaker of the House, Ryan. In fact, most of the problems that have occurred in Washington haven't occurred between Democrats and the Republicans. It's occurred between the President and the Republicans. And the program that they came up with in the House Ways and Means Committee was rejected by the President, both by Secretary Mnuchin and Secretary Ross and the President himself. They don't believe that the bat tax is the way to go.
Yeah, and the president's plan for the individual rate is to move the 7 brackets down to 3 brackets and have 3 individual brackets at 10, 25, and 35. And he hasn't released the the details of the tax plan. But
Funny thing about that with the president, he does not long on details.
Yeah, but are you in favor of the three bracket structure?
We're in favor of simplification.
Yeah.
But the devil is in the details. And so no one is going to vote on something where you don't go over the details of the program.
Yeah. President Trump had a more detailed plan during the campaign, but he's changed it since with the less details. Were you in favor of the plan that he had in the campaign? Because
Mr. Trump changes details almost daily, as often as his tweets. So until he can actually submit something that you can look, it's folly to comment on something that Mr. Trump would say, because he'll change his mind tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the median income in your district is around $50,000. In Mr. Trump's old plan, people would be paying less federal income tax on that.
His plan wasn't detailed enough to determine any kind of the ramifications overall on people. He says with very glib tones that it's going to be great, it's going to be huge, you're going to love it, it's going to be tremendous. Well, those are great phrases, but they're not a plan, and they're not anything that you can vote on if you're concerned about upholding the concerns of the people of the district you represent.
Yeah, and I want to finish up with some personal questions. Do you have any hobbies?
Several. But I enjoy photography. I haven't done as much of it as I would like to, and I used to have at least a couple of cameras, but now with about the only time I get to take a picture is on my cell phone. But it's pretty good. Pretty good. And I love music, and so I like to download and collect music, but primarily, oldies. You know, my kids say that I'm trapped in the '60s and '70s, and they have a point. And but it's a place I like to go, and you can be transported by music on a regular basis back there.
Yeah, and where do you get your news from?
Several sources. I don't think you can get your news from just one source. I think you have to. The paper of record for the nation is the New York Times, but you get the Times, you get the Post, you get the Journal. Here I would get the Current, the Journal Enquirer, and even the East Hartford Gazette. But anything, the more you can get news, the better off you are.
Yeah, and Connecticut is really well known for its pizza restaurants. Do you have a favorite pizza restaurant in the state?
It used to be the Marco Polo in East Hartford, but there's several in New Haven. The Bates is pretty good, but we have something, and we have the annual Goma Sigama Bocce Ball Tournament. We have the famous green pizza truck that's coming up from New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, yeah, I have had that before,
Yeah, and they're terrific. Thin pizza, it's good, and I'm kind of a sausage and peppers guy.
Yeah, and I want to finish up with, have you decided if you're running for re-election in 2018, or would you like to run for maybe like governor or anything else?
I haven't, in all likelihood I'm going to, but I haven't, made up my mind. But I, in all likelihood, would, because of the agenda that we've put forward. And I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about our prospects to take back the House of Representatives. After this term, I will have served for 20 years. But only 4 of those years have we been in the majority. And when you're in the majority, that's when you're really able to get something done.
Yeah. And Congressman Larson, I'd like to thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to ravingryan.com. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and make sure to follow Congressman Larson on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you for watching. Reporting for Raving Ryan.
Follow me.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Reporting for Raving Ryan, I'm Ryan Anastasio.